Hey guys, Steve here from the turtlefollower.com with the stock market outlook for the week of September 22nd. Hope you guys had a great weekend. We're going to take a look at the four major future contracts that trade for the indices and see if we can get an idea of where we might be headed this week. So the first one we're going to look at is the ES being the S&P 500 futures. And you can see here on the top on the weekly chart, we're gradually making new highs. This trend has been intact since the start of 2013, continues to support this market and essentially leads us to higher prices. So what happened this past week, or the past few weeks, was we were in this downtrend channel. All right, we had been consolidating, we broke down, we put in this small downtrend channel, and we came right back into previous highs and the 50-day moving average, which acted as support. And we broke through that downtrend line, and it led to a couple days of higher prices. Now Friday's action, we continued higher in the morning, and sure enough we closed lower in the afternoon. That I think primarily was for two reasons, one being the Alibaba IPO, which I think everybody thought was going to be the next thing, best thing since sliced bread, and the other thing was it was options expiration. So in the afternoon hours you typically will get some kind of volatility, so the market makers can move the positions around and get their pricing where they need it for options to expire. So looking ahead on the S&P, it looks like we've bounced off that 50-day, which has supported for most of this rally. There was a few times, if we zoom out a little bit, back here in February, again in April, and then again most recently in August, that we broke that 50-day moving average and tested the trend line. After those trend lines have been tested, you could see that we did put in a solid 2 to 5 months of higher prices that were above the 50-day moving average. So I look at Friday's action as just a temporary thing. I don't think it necessarily leads to anything substantial as far as a pullback, especially when you look at the the weekly chart and you look at where we've bounced along that trend. So I think this could potentially lead to another day or two of lower prices, but ultimately I think we end up breaking out above that 2000 level, and that becomes our new support once we break out. So you could see again on the weekly chart, that's essentially the level we're holding. I think we'll move higher from here. Again, the first 2 days or 3 days of the week may prove to have some lower prices, but I don't foresee any major breaks in any type of technicals at this point. The NQs, again, something similar. We had where it did come back, tested that 50-day, tested the trend line, bounced higher. You could see where the NQ stopped was essentially the highs of this consolidation. So this one may wish to consolidate in this box a little longer. All right, fill in this right side of this box, move over to the trend line, and let the 50-day moving average catch up, and then eventually break out over 4100. Again, the only thing on this one is we are on the weekly chart pushing some resistance as far as the weekly channel. We are up against that resistance line. So one of two things may happen. We may continue sideways and then move higher again using this new trend line as our support, or the other thing that may happen is we may break down below this channel and come back and test 3800. At this point, looking at the daily, I don't see that necessarily happening. I would more along the lines of some sideways consolidation, maybe between 4000 and 4100, and then an eventual breakout over 4100 as it becomes a little bit more of a good risk reward scenario on the weekly chart. The YM, the Dow futures, this was another one that we talked about a few weeks ago, that we said this was the weakest of the three indices during this breakdown time. All right, this was the weakest, and sure enough that proved us wrong, not necessarily wrong, but it turned around and now it is the strongest of the three. It is the only one that is breaking out to new highs and closing at new highs. So you could see here on the Dow, we came back down. We tested the trend line at 62 or 16,200. We came back up. We consolidated a little bit at 17,000, pulled back a little bit in that weekly channel or that daily channel, broke out, and instead of stopping at the resistance, we just continued to break out higher. Now this bar here is typically a reversal signal, and with this one I could see this one pulling back a little bit more than the S&P just because of where the 50-day moving average is. All right, 50-day moving average is down here 1683.5, and if you look at the S&P futures, you'll see we had something similar, but the 50-day is a little bit closer. So on the Dow, I could see that definitely pulling back a little bit more. Maybe we have one or two down 60 or 70 point days this week and we get right back into that range. But for now, we're going on the idea of the 50-day moving average being support, the weekly chart acting as excellent support as it has for the past year and a half, and breaking out to new highs on the weekly chart. So even if we were pulling back, I would presume that we would be bought and move higher. And the last one, the Russell Futures / TF on Thinkorswim. We're down 18 points on Friday, and you can see what's happening here on the Russell. In the weekly chart, we've been consolidating between 1210 and then 1100. And on the daily chart, you can see we're putting in this symmetrical triangle. Okay, so we have lower highs, higher lows. So potentially this week coming back into say 1110, bouncing off of that, going back to say 1150, and we'll see eventually which side decides to break first. It could very well be, with the way the markets have acted, it could very well be that we come in, we put in another higher low here, and then turn around and break out over 1170. I don't necessarily know which way we're going to break yet, because this is another form of consolidation, just as we have here on the weekly in more of a rectangular formation where we're pretty much consolidating between two levels. The same idea is happening here on the daily. It's just that we're consolidating between two opposing trend lines. So again, this one with the day that it had on Friday, I would not be surprised to see at some point during the week it test the 1110 area, and then let's see what happens when we get to 1110. If we bounce or if we continue down and break these levels at 1104, then obviously we know what direction it wants to take, and we will then, if we break 1104, the next level that would be in play would be this 1100 area and the consolidation support on the weekly chart. So that's how I'm looking at the markets. Essentially, I think we probably have some pullback to happen in the first couple days of the week, and then towards the end, I think we would put in some higher prices. Not necessarily breaking out this week, but I do think that, you know, the pullback is going to be short-lived, and it's really just more of a follow-through action from Friday. So with that said, I hope you guys liked the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up below. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, leave some comments, and follow me on StockTwits, Twitter, Google+, and subscribe to the nightly recap on the website, and this way you can get all the videos sent directly to your inbox. So have a great rest of the week. We'll see you tonight for the strategy session. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day.